Hello.
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 Hi there.
Hello and welcome to another RadioTimes.com podcast. This week we're talking about Britbox, ITV and BBC's new entry into the UK on-demand market and other services of the same nature that are coming our way soon. And I'm joined by Ben Allen, our on-demand writer.
Hello.
And Eleanor Bly-Griffiths, our drama editor.
Hello.
Hello. So Ben, tell us in a few more words, what is Britbox?
So Britbox is a new streaming service from BBC and ITV, and it's basically going to be where they put all of their old and some new shows. They said they're going to commission some original content for it, but it'll basically be the place to go if you want to stream, say, The Office or Gavin and Stacey or old seasons of Love Island, and so those at the moment are on the likes of Netflix, but it's quite possible that what they're going to look to do is to take them off when these deals that they have end with Netflix and other streaming services. When they end, it looks like it's going to be the only place to find shows like that.
So that could have an impact on those other services, which we can discuss in a bit more detail in a moment. When can we expect Britbox?
So Britbox is coming in the fourth quarter of this year. So that's basically October to December this year. And it's going to cost £5.99 per month.
Okay, and that's about the same as what the cheapest Netflix subscription?
Yes, the cheapest Netflix subscription is $5.99, but I don't think many people are on that. I think the standard Netflix subscription is $8.99.
So they're undercutting slightly.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, exactly.
Eleanor, an archive of old BBC and ITV shows, all the British drama that you could want. Is that an exciting prospect for you for $5.99 a month?
To some extent, but I mean, a lot of us have had we've kind of got used to having access to all of those old, BBC crime dramas and ITV dramas on Netflix. So it's kind of an additional expense for something that most of us are quite used to having access to. That said, there is a kind of fragmentation that we've had where you've been like, oh, is it on Netflix or is it an iPlayer or is it, So I suppose in some ways it would be quite nice to be able to come to it and say, oh yeah, all the dramas from ITV.
It's easy to find. You know where to find BBC drama from now on, don't you?
Yeah.
Also, I should clarify as well that basically there's going to be a window for the iPlayer. It's going to be a year. So once a show airs on BBC, it'll be on iPlayer for a full year from now on, which is up from, I think it was around 30 days previously. And for ITV Hub, it'll be 30 days. So shows, once they've had their life cycle on ITV Player, ITV Hub and BBC iPlayer, they will then go onto Britbox. So they will have a window where they're free to access.
Okay, so if you don't have it, you can still watch for up to a year with some shows.
Yeah.
And then, but also, there won't be, if you've got Britbox, there won't be people watching the things that you can watch anywhere else, basically.
Yeah, that's the aim, I think. Yeah.
Sorry, Ellen.
That could be a good thing because at the moment there's quite often this weird time between when it goes off iPlayer and it could be several months before it then arrives on Netflix. Mm-hmm. So there's this kind of
where is my show?
There's this sort of delay between it. So that's sort of confusing and irritating.
It feels like it might be easier to understand where all these BBC shows are in the future, kind of thing, because it'll be they're either iPlayer or they're Britbox.
Although I suppose you'll be thinking, did it air within the last 12 months?
Yes, how do I do my calculations? And you have to start to keep in a diary of. I imagine they'll do some publicity around some of the things.
Yes,
But I guess the thing is, if you have Britbox, you will have iPlayer as well, so you
That's
can.
True,
if
yes.
it is in that window,
you
check iPlayer first, then you go to Britbox.
Yeah.
Also, services such as RadioTimes.com, your handy guide to everything that's going on in TV, including how to watch things and when and where, we'll certainly be covering that.
For us.
We'll certainly be covering that in as more detail than anyone else and better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
That's the plan. So there is a Britbox already. Britbox already exists in the US, doesn't it?
Yes. Now, this the British version is going to operate entirely independently, but I think, so it's the same thing. BBC and ITV started this over in the States themselves as a place to put all of their shows, and it kind of serves as a catch-up service as well in the States, so they get, shows straight after they would air on BBC America, I guess, and they'd get some of our morning shows, I think, over there, so Good Morning America, Good Morning Britain.
People people are watching. US people are watching Piers Morgan, are they? Each day, that makes a lot of sense the more you think about it. Yeah,
yeah, no, they do like him, unfortunately. But so 650,000 people over that subscribe to the US version of Britbox, and ITV and BBC say they've learned a lot about what the market wants and how streaming services work from that venture. So that should be interesting to see how it comes here.
It is a different audience, though, isn't it? So it'll be interesting to see whether they can repeat that here for people who kind of expect those shows. But yeah, American viewers love it, or that there are people who in America absolutely love British shows and the sheer Britishness of them. So this must be like quite a great thing for those people.
Yeah.
So Britbox is coming, but actually, as Eleanor said, this whole market is fragmenting, basically, that we've got more and more players coming into it, and it's going to make a difference as to where you can get certain shows. It's going to make a difference as to how much people are paying, and it'll be interesting to see how many subscriptions they're willing to pay for. But what are the other services that we can expect in the near future coming to the UK?
So the big one is Disney Plus. That is coming. They say between October this year and March next year for the UK. So it's still actually launching in the US in November. So we imagine it'll be the start of 2020 for us in the UK. So that's obviously a big one because Disney owns Marvel. It also now owns 20th Century Fox. So that means we're going to get the likes of these new Marvel TV shows from like Loki. Tom Hiddleston's character in the MCU, it has its own standalone TV show. There's also some, the new Disney live action films. There's a Lady and the Tramp live action film with actual dogs, not CGI dogs.
They just did it with Lion King, didn't they? Yeah.
I know, yeah. So that's obviously going to be a big draw in. And they then own, so I know in the US, they're launching it with The Simpsons, which was their big banner, headline. We've got all 30 seasons or whatever it is of The Simpsons. So, because they own Fox, who owns Simpsons, who owns Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who owns The X-Files, there's a massive catalogue there of potential. But because there's obviously licensing deals in play here already, and we don't know exactly, we know that the library, as with Netflix in the US at the moment, it's going to be different here. We just don't know how different. So we could have The Simpsons, but we could not have The Simpsons.
But I mean, there's a lot of buzz at the moment, as you say, around these new Marvel shows. And that's going to be, well, for certain people, that's going to be an exciting prospect.
I think so. And I even forgot to say, obviously, the new Star Wars show, The Mandalorian, that's a massive deal. So that's set to be on there from launch. The Marvel shows are going to come later. But they've got a massive
They've got Star Wars and Marvel. They've got two of the biggest properties in the business on the big and small screen kind of thing.
Exactly.
So it will be interesting to see how people react to that. And are there other services?
Sorry, there are indeed, yeah. So Apple TV Plus is coming. We don't know when. It's meant to be early next year. So Apple TV Plus, they've taken on loads of new commissions for TV shows. There's a morning show, a comedy. It's like a sitcom based around like Good Morning America type show, starring Reese Witherspoon, Steve Carell, and Jennifer Aniston. So they're three massive names. That's kind of their main show that they've been pushing out so far. They've got Steven Spielberg on board to create some stuff for them. They've got J.J. Abrams. They got Damien Chazelle, who directed La La Land and First Man. He's doing a TV show for them. So they've invested loads and loads of money, but we still aren't really sure how it's going to look, how it's going to work. We don't know, is it only going to be available on iPhones or like Apple software? So that one is it's still a blind prospect almost, because we just, Disney Plus have given us a good idea of what's going to be on there, how you're going to access it, etc.
It's interesting though, isn't it, that there's sort of two approaches, and the one that Apple seems to be taking and the one that Disney have got both, I suppose, but is it about the archive, or is it about the headline shows kind of thing, the new stuff that's coming out? And certainly in trying to sell these services, it feels as if having something new and exciting with a big name attached, like Apple have got all the big names, you'd think would certainly help with that. If you guys got any thoughts on what's more attractive, or what's more attractive to you, archive or new stuff?
I'll sit on the fence and say I want something that does both.
You do, don't you? Right?
That's what I do like about Netflix, is I go there kind of wanting to browse. Sometimes I go there for a specific show that's from the from like the BBC or from ITV from way back when. Sometimes I go for like The Crown or Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Quite often I just kind of just scrolling through.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference as well. People might think people's behaviour might be that I think a lot of us do that, sit on the sofa on a Sunday and scroll through and find out what find something and watch it kind of thing, dip into it. But like, even if your behaviour is that that's what you do the most, I'm not sure that you think, I'm going to get this service because I'm going to do that. I think you say I'm going to get, or I don't know, one view is that you get this service because, Stranger Things, new series of Stranger Things is coming on. Even if you're not actually watching as much new content as you are archive stuff. Mm-hmm.
What I'm hearing, I think Carolyn McCall from ITV, chief executive, said it like this the other day, and I've heard it from a few different people, is that the way to attract new subscribers is to have new, exciting shows, but the way to keep people is having that archive.
That kind of makes some sense to me.
Yeah. So, the idea is that Netflix, they're spending so much money on getting, massive new seasons, Stranger Things, or just new and exciting shows, and that's what's getting them, bumping up their subscription rate, and that's where they need to, keep it going. But also, they still heavily rely on having the likes of Friends on there, as you could see, like from the backlash recently to the news that Friends is going to be leaving Netflix US. That people really do care about having that on there. They want access to all 236 episodes.
And that's because who's taking that back? That's who makes that? Who owns
that's
it?
Warner Media. So Warner Media owns Friends. It also owns a few other of those sitcoms. And so Warner Media is starting up a streaming service with HBO because they own HBO. So it's going to be HBO Max. That'll have all the shows that we see through Sky Atlantic, like Big Little Lies and Game of Thrones. But at the moment, that's going to launch in January in the US. They've said that they hope to expand it globally and bring it to the UK. But for now, that's just in the US. They're going to see how it goes. So that shouldn't affect us or Netflix or Friends on Netflix UK as yet.
For the time being. But it's kind of going in that direction. I mean, there's just more and more players entering the market and, sort of copyright owners or people who own shows or whatever taking those back.
Exactly,
I mean, well, I was going to say in the UK, but in the US as well, probably everywhere at the moment, Netflix is the predominant streaming service. Mm-hmm. If they're losing this archive stuff to the likes of Britbox, to some of it maybe to Disney, some of it to Warner Brothers, is that going to hurt them, do we think?
Yeah, majorly. Yeah, for sure.
To the extent that people don't subscribe to Netflix anymore, or... I mean, I'm not looking for a definitive answer here. It's all up in the air, I understand, but it's an interesting thing to consider, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. It's tough because, like, in theory, right, in 4 years' time, Netflix is only going to have its original shows. So that, and even that's kind of a complicated one because they brand shows as original here that they've actually been licensing from, say, the CW. So Riverdale on Netflix, that is not their show, but it's a Netflix original in the UK.
Because it's the only place that you can see it in the UK.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in theory, in 4 years' time, Riverdale won't be on Netflix. So you have to look at the shows that they're making themselves. So your Orange is the New Blacks, your House of Cards, is your Ozarks. So just to try and like understand if I'm trying to think, even just for myself, would I subscribe to Netflix? Would I pay $8.99 a month? And by then it's probably going to be $10.99 for just those shows. And I'm not sure I would, because I think I'd probably tune into Netflix specifically for 6, 7, 8 shows a year that I could probably dip in and come back to, if you know what I mean. I'm not sure if I'd have a running subscription for all 12 months of the year, if you know what I mean.
We've looked before at the amount of money that Netflix put into original shows, and it kind of starting to make sense now, isn't it? Because that is basically, like you say, that's all they're going to have. But the thing is, would you not have the service that has the new series of Stranger Things on, even if that's one of the only 10 things you want to see? I don't know.
Well, I'm curious to see, as all of these different providers come in and make the whole thing much more expensive. If you want to see everything, you have to subscribe to everything, you have to pay quite a lot of money. I'm curious to see if people will just increasingly pirate or share their accounts.
Netflix knows we do that as well. Like they're very aware of where we're logging into different accounts and stuff.
I think you've made the point before, Eleanor, that they'll probably realise this is going to happen and try and find a happy medium between, using someone, because they won't let people just use each other's accounts wherever they want, I guess. But they will know that's what people are going to try and do, and that they can get more people sort of maybe subscribing at a lower rate. Do you think if they give them I'm trying to think of an analogy, like a car insurance company that says, well, you can get the second car cheaper kind of thing.
Yeah, because they're keen to keep you on board. So I do wonder what, as they compete with each other, because they are competing, these different on-demand services, they will be competing for our money and our attention. And
that's the other question though, isn't it? Does it become sort of a buyer's market to a certain extent? Do they have to start dropping their prices? Could you say, well, I'm willing to spend £15 a month on subscriptions, but instead of that being 2 subscriptions, maybe in the future you'll be able to get 4 or 5 because they've gone lower? I mean, I don't know if that's the case, but...
Well, I mean, I wonder, can they subsist off that if they're charging that much?
We don't know, I guess.
But that point on competition is interesting because I was speaking with other journalists, Carolyn McCall from ITV and Tony Hall from the BBC.
General of the BBC.
Yes, important person, I believe.
Just Tony to you, though.
Tone.
It's the kind of access we have here, the kind of terms we're on with the players, the big players.
But what they were saying was that they see it as supplementary. They're saying that the information they've gotten from surveys they've done is that people want new and old British content on demand, but they also are willing to spend it on top, that extra money on top of their Netflix subscription. And I kind of question that a little bit, because I don't know how much people are already kicking off about having to spend slightly more money on Netflix. So if you're then having to do 2 subscriptions, it's double the cost almost. Yeah. And then also if they're talking about, people are willing to subscribe to 2 things. Will they subscribe to Disney Plus instead of Britbox when it comes out? I mean, it'll depend on your viewer, what you're into and everything. But I kind of struggle to believe that people are willing to do 2 streaming services of the ilk of Netflix and Britbox at the moment.
I do wonder how Netflix will cope, because their model, they're sort of struggling to make money from their model. And it relies on them pumping out more and more. And it relies on them being able to keep the price point at that point, if not higher. So I wonder how
to not make money already.
So I sort of wonder how Netflix will cope, and then I also wonder whether Britbox is going to work. So it's curious, as like a TV consumer, to see sort of whether there are going to be 2 winners, 2 losers here, whether one will beat the other, and what the impact for us is going to be as a viewer.
Lots of losers.
You've got to think as well, what's the target audience for Britbox in this country? And I'm not saying that it won't be across a range of demographics and ages and so on, but you'd think in a way, access to old BBC shows, or relatively old, might appeal to an older audience maybe. And I suppose one of the things is, how willing are those people to take on new services and so on? How aware are they of them? But also, one thing I don't think we've confirmed yet is, will those shows still be available? Because at the moment, if you like that sort of stuff, you will just watch ITV3 all day, right? If you're sort of retired and in the market for those kinds of shows, there's a lot of that stuff available already. The equivalent for BBC is Gold, which is it's a subscription when you have to get buy a service on Sky or Virgin or wherever, I think, to get it. I wonder if those will still be available.
They will.
They will be, right?
ITV Press.
Oh, did they? Right.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so they basically, they serve a different purpose almost. I mean, who knows? Maybe in the future, things will go increasingly on demand. Maybe they'll start to see less of a purpose of having ITV3. I mean, to be honest, I didn't even know there was a third ITV. There you go.
That's the age you are, yeah.
So maybe
that makes my point.
Maybe it'll be less of a thing, but I think for now they're basically saying it's a different thing. So they'll continue both of those. ITV3 will have your whatever shows, and same with UK TV Gold.
The other curious thing is the thing that the BBC does at the moment with iPlayer, where in the run up to a series, it bounces things back on as a box set. So I've been, speeding my way through Peaky Blinders at the moment. And I think you said they will continue to do that?
Yeah, basically. So the point they made was that there'll be some crossover between BBC iPlayer and Britbox at a time. Like at certain times, because that kind of thing. I think they will still want to do that.
So that kind of almost kills Britbox, because the point at which you think, oh, I must watch all the Peaky Blinders,
when a new series is coming out.
They just bring it back on iPlayer, you know. So I wonder.
Yeah, I guess what they're relying on is that they will have such an extensive catalogue that will draw people in. It won't matter that having Line of Duty available for free for 2 to 3 months of the year. It'll be people will invest in Britbox because they want access to the whole thing. I think that's kind of what they're hoping. But
maybe. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, I think some people will kick off about they're already paying quite a lot of money for the license fee. They'll feel like, well, in this age where I should be able to see everything, they'll feel like, I've already paid for those TV shows to be made and now I have to pay to see them again. Obviously, there's a counter to that point, which is previously the BBC sold a lot of DVDs and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of...
It's the second market. That's what Tony Hall, my pal Tony, was chatting to him the other day.
But I mean, there is something in that, isn't there? People have always bought DVDs, but also it's like these aren't available to you now in any other way or without parting with money. So it's not like they're taking away something.
Well, they could just throw them all up on iPlayer for the indefinite future, or an ITV hub, or that's a separate issue. But
the BBC has a duty to itself, and I suppose the licence fee payer to try and make money back where it can in these straightened times, I suppose, would be its argument.
But also BBC is paying production companies for these shows as well. So production company, so that I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure when a show is on iPlayer, they're paying to have it there, basically. So
depending on whether it's BBC Studios or
exactly. I think they're not going to just throw everything out for free forever, because it just wouldn't make any sense.
No. Right. Anything else anybody wants to cover before we wrap up?
I'm happy.
Okay. So thanks for listening. We will be back next week with another radiotimes.com podcast. Until then, have a great week.